One flash, one moment, and in less than a minute, everything you know, gone. The world has lived under the shadow of nuclear weapons for nearly 80 years. We've built them, tested them, feared them, and forgotten just how close we are to total annihilation. What if tomorrow morning the alarms go off? What if two nations, let's say India and Pakistan or the US and Russia, launch just one nuclear strike? Would you survive? This isn't a science fiction movie. This is a real scenario that experts and governments quietly model behind closed doors because the truth is too terrifying for the public. But today, we're going to walk through it, step by step, moment by moment, to understand what would actually happen if nuclear war started tomorrow. And what you're about to hear may change the way you look at the world forever. The first 30 minutes. It starts with a detection. Somewhere deep in a bunker, a radar picks up the trajectory of an incoming missile. Within seconds, military leaders scramble. Phones ring. Satellite feeds light up. Politicians are dragged from their beds and shoved in front of nuclear footballs. If it's the US and Russia, the response time is less than 12 minutes. If it's India and Pakistan, just 6. By the time civilians hear the emergency broadcast, if they hear it at all, it's already too late. The first missile hits a city. Maybe it's Delhi, maybe it's Moscow, maybe New York. A blinding white light spreads outward, vaporizing everything within a mile. People turn to shadows on concrete. Entire skyscrapers melt. And those not killed instantly face something even worse: radiation. In just 30 minutes, 50 million people are dead, depending on the scale of the exchange. The next 24 hours, hospitals collapse under pressure. There are no enough doctors, no clean water, no power. People flee the cities, but the roads are jammed. Most of them will never make it. The traffic is a mess, and no one has the fuel to outrun a nuclear fallout. By now, other countries are retaliating as alliances come into play. If the attack was launched from a superpower, the world braces for more. Submarine-launched missiles, nuclear submarines lurking beneath the ocean surface, wait for their turn to strike. These weapons have been designed to ensure that no one remains untouched, ensuring retaliation, even if the first attack came out of nowhere. Governments issue emergency measures. Martial law is declared in most of the world's major cities. The internet is down. No communication between the average person and the outside world. People scramble for food, water, and shelter. As supplies dwindle, they begin fighting for the bare necessities. The next week, the initial nuclear strikes have caused irreversible damage, but now comes the second, even more catastrophic wave. Thousands of tons of radioactive particles have been hurled into the atmosphere. Clouds of radioactive dust circle the globe, creating a nuclear winter. Average global temperatures plummet by several degrees. Crops die, and what little food remains rots. The long-term consequences on the environment are devastating. And it's not just the death toll, though it's already in the hundreds of millions. It's the psychological devastation. Entire generations of people will grow up never having known what life was like before. Children born after the war will grow up in a world where resources are scarce, governments are gone, and the future looks grim. As the global population suffers, governments try to rebuild. The international order collapses, trade stops, travel is impossible. The vast majority of nations struggle to put their economies back together, and most will fail. The wealthy, once insulated from tragedy, are now as vulnerable as the poorest of the poor. The next month. By now, the world's cities have become ghost towns, many of them abandoned entirely. In some places, the radiation levels are too high to return for years. Survivors live in makeshift shelters, scavenging through abandoned stores for whatever they can find. If you thought survival was about having the right tools, think again. It's about having enough to get by without ever knowing what's around the corner. By now, international relations have completely broken down. Those nations that still exist are left to fend for themselves, No one can help the others. China, the US, and Russia, once the pillars of global power, are in ruins. If they still exist, it's a shadow of what they once were. The destruction is global. Even countries not directly involved in the war suffer its effects. The global economy is now a distant memory. No one has the ability or resources to maintain the complex trade relationships that supported the world. Nations that once thrived on global exports now turn inward, trying to hold on to the scraps that remain. A year after the bombs fell, there are pockets of survivors. They live in isolated communities, surviving off what they can grow, scavenge, or trade. There's no electricity, no cell phones, no modern medicine. People get by with what little knowledge they have, growing food in makeshift gardens, hunting for game, and learning to adapt to the world they've inherited. But humanity hasn't lost its will to rebuild. In the ruins, some people begin the difficult task of reconstruction. Without proper resources or knowledge, they rely on makeshift technologies, manual tools, rudimentary medicines. Yet the damage to the world's ecosystem, to society, to everything humans have built, is irreversible. Nuclear winter continues for months. The world's temperatures remain far colder than usual. The Northern Hemisphere experiences extended winters, causing another death toll among those unprepared for the harsh conditions. The sun barely pierces through the dust clouds. Humanity now has to contend with survival in a hostile, unrecognizable world. Humanity's future, 10 years after the blast. As years pass, humanity's fight for survival becomes more and more about enduring, not thriving. The nuclear fallout has forever changed the landscape. The oceans, the air, the soil, everything is contaminated. Ecosystems collapse. Animals die off in massive numbers. The insects that pollinate crops are now gone. Plants that humans relied on for food have either mutated or disappeared entirely. The balance of life that sustained the world for millennia is irrevocably gone. Cities that once housed millions of people are now silent, abandoned, and overrun by nature. Yet small groups of survivors continue to try and rebuild, scattered across the remnants of the earth. They work with what little they have, clinging to the memories of the world that was. But the future of the human race is uncertain. Can the human race ever truly recover from the devastation of nuclear war? Will the wounds of this cataclysm ever heal? Thanks for watching.